On today's episode of Murfreesboro Storytellers, we travel to Overall Creek Elementary and visit with Dr. Linda Gilbert, Director of Murfreesboro City Schools. Our city school system is widely recognized statewide for its commitment to its students and their education. We're pleased to have Dr. Linda Arms Gilbert, Superintendent of the Murfreesboro City School System, as our guest on Murfreesboro Storytellers. Linda, welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. Do you use the title of Director of Schools or Superintendent?
Well, a lot of people call me a lot of things,
I understand.
but Director of Schools is the official title.
Okay, all right. I know there are two different titles
Right,
that sort of
that's
float
right.
around among systems.
Right.
And we're presenting this program from the library at Overall Creek Elementary School.
That's right.
The new pride and joy of the city school system.
It's a new system. We're proud of all of our schools, but this one certainly is different. It's
Different from
very
the Critchlow Grammar School I attended many
That's
years ago.
right. That's right. But we've gone back to two-story, so that's a good thing.
You sure have a little cheaper to do that as far as the overall cost. I imagine.
Absolutely. When you think about just the roof cover, when we have to replace the roof on this school, it's going to cost us a lot less than if all 178,000 square feet were under just a regular roof. So yes, much more efficient.
How does the size of this school compare with others in the system?
Really, the school is about the same size overall as schools like Case and Lane,
Okay.
but because you have the two-story, what I really liked about it is that it seems closer. You can see from the front to the back, you can see from side to side, and of course, if it's flat, then you're not going to have that. So it's a good model.
What is enrollment at Overall Creek?
It will hold 1,000.
Okay.
We were a little over 600 by the end of the year, which is really more than what we thought. We're projecting another 100 students here next year. So we still have room here. What we didn't expect was what happened at our other schools because we rezoned the entire city and really thought we were pulling 200 students out of John Pittard, for example,
Okay.
and all of a sudden we had 200 showed up. So while this side of town has been relieved somewhat, we're going to have to work on the other side of town. But this school has filled faster than we thought.
Continual growth in our community puts demands upon the school system to provide more and more facilities. I
Absolutely.
presume.
When you look at what we projected in our budget as far as number of students last year and what we're projecting for next year or this coming year, we're looking at about a 10% increase.
Okay.
We actually had projected about 7,600 students for this year. This past year we had about 8,000, and so we're looking at projecting another 300 to 400 next year.
Other construction plans, do I understand you're going to do in addition to Hobgood School?
We are. Already have plans designed. We will be adding on 10 classrooms and a gymnasium, and the gymnasium will be the size of Overall Creek's gymnasium. We really feel like that will give us a place in the inner city where we can have gatherings. Obviously, Bradley is just right down the street. Reese
Sure.
Rogers is just down the street, so that's a good place for us to have a large gym.
So is there continued growth in the enrollment at Hobgood as well?
Yes. Hobgood is full. Reese Rogers is full. John Pittard is full. Black Fox is full. So we're looking, and Bradley is full.
Bellwood.
So Bellwood Discovery School, of course, is a magnet school.
Sure.
So it is not. It has its capacity of students, but those schools that are not the magnet school are all really full. So we're looking at how do we relieve, and so our first step will be Hobgood, and then we'll follow that though the next year with Black Fox.
Okay, all right. Continual growth and continued demands on the system.
Fortunately, those schools, when we added on to Hobgood a few years ago, we made the core large enough, which means your library, your cafeteria, your office space, that we could add on there. Black Fox's core will hold 1,000 students. We have over 800 there now, so we feel comfortable with adding those 10 additional classrooms there.
Yeah, the recent addition to Hobgood just changed the whole character
Right.
of the
Oh,
building.
it's a great
I think.
school.
Yeah,
Great
they
school.
made a great job there. Tell us about the coming school year. Anything different you're going to be doing in the way of programs?
Well, if you always change,
Sure.
you don't stand still. So we're looking at, we just adopted new math textbooks, new social studies textbooks, so we'll be implementing those. Overall Creek just got a grant, a State Farm grant, so we'll be putting a greenhouse here. Overall has a STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, and actually they made it STEAM and added to arts. So they have that emphasis, so that will be going on. The Chow bus, I'm sure most people have heard about, has been fantastic as far as feeding. So we'll be using that as far as rewards for students. Teachers use it during the year for that. We're also looking at, is it possible to turn that bus into a learning lab for parents? And so you'll see that. Technology continues to be an emphasis. We had a technology plan that we implemented a couple of years ago, so that will continue to be an emphasis. Coordinated school health is very strong. We continue to partner with the Guidance Center and the Hope Clinic to work with our mental health issues. So a lot of things that you'll be seeing that are tweaks and some additions, and of course we'll be doing rezoning. That's something that will need to occur with the Hobgood coming online the next school year.
Linda, tell us about faculty and staff. I'm sure you're continually having to add people for the teaching staff especially.
Right. We are. We're fortunate to have MTSU here, and we have other universities from which we can pull. We're lucky that people want to come here to work, so we're always looking for the best. That's really important because that teacher is really the defining element of the classroom.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what technology you have, it doesn't matter what other things you have, but the teacher is that defining element. So we're looking for people. I've been told to hire with heart for heart, and I think I do, because I think that we can help people learn how to teach. But you have to really love children, and you have to be willing to work hard. So we're over 500 teachers and educational assistants, support staff. So you're looking at about 1,000 full-time folks, and then additional part-time. So we're pretty. When you look at the size of the school system, John, really, we think of ourselves as small, but we're really one of the 25 largest school systems in the state.
Yeah, I can believe that. You mentioned MTSU and your relationship, particularly being able to get more and more additions as far as personnel. Other relationships you have with MTSU during the school year.
Gee,
Mention some of those.
this is a short program. Oh, wow. Well, obviously the one that's probably the most visible is when we take all of our students to the ball game.
Oh, boy.
And so that is really an experience.
Basketball.
And basketball. And we have it down to a fine art, but MTSU is so wonderful to work with us. That gives our students an opportunity to be on that campus. And many of our students have never been on that campus. So we have that. We have a great partnership with the College of Behavioral Science. We have a Center for Leadership and Learning that's located on the Mitchell-Nelson campus. We have social work interns. We have public relation interns. Obviously, we have educational interns. We're able to go on campus and see things, and the campus then comes to us. One of the things that I'm proudest of is we really have begun an initiative with the College of Education where we're learning from each other.
That's good.
And I think that's really critical. This summer we had over 30 teachers on MTSU's campus as part of the Jennings and Rebecca Jones Gifted Academy. They were able to get their employment standard. That means that they will be able to teach gifted students in their classrooms without consultants. So we see that expanding. We have partnerships with the math and science departments. It's just really remarkable. You name what's happening at MTSU, and we're part of it. At least we want to be. This week, and by the time this show airs, it may be over, but we will be having actually at Overall Creek next Monday, we will be having some Chinese students and teachers as part of that exchange. So that is really a great experience for our teachers, a great experience for our students, because we will be exchanging. So we're very, very thankful for our relationship with MTSU. Tennis camps, golf camps, soccer camps, so a lot of events happening that are visible, and then on the back side, the things like the social work interns that maybe the public doesn't see, but that are critical to our district.
Interns as opposed to student teachers. This is different from
Right, that's
teachers,
different. With our student teachers, that really is related to the College of Education. With our interns, you're talking about Department of Social Work and some other departments that are there, public relations, but we have a lot of people besides just the future teachers coming into our district and working with us, and that's remarkable. So we're very, very thankful for MTSU, the leadership of Dr. McPhee. Of course, Liz McPhee was one of the teachers in our district, and I was blessed to watch her teach, and she was a phenomenal, phenomenal teacher, and still is, and it's great to have that relationship.
You mentioned the Chinese students in for a visit in our community. How many languages do you have in the city school system? Any idea?
I don't have any idea, John. We certainly have tripled our English second language population. In fact, you were talking about hiring. We will be hiring 3.5 additional ESL teachers this year. So you're looking at, of course, the Laotian, they were here first, and then we've had an influx of our Hispanic, obviously, and our Arabic population. So we're seeing more and more the diversity, and the university certainly helps with that. And our approach to that is we celebrate it. And so we have an African American celebration, we have an Arabic celebration, we have a Hispanic celebration, and those things are important because our children are being taught so that they can go anywhere in the world.
Sure.
And they need to understand that the world is a very diverse place.
The reason I asked that, I remember hearing the hundreds of languages apparently that are being spoken in the Davidson County Metro Nashville school system.
We're not quite as diverse, but certainly we are extremely diverse. In fact, there was an article in the newspaper this past year where, and I've forgotten what the research firm was, but they looked at the top 10 most diverse school system, most schools in the state, and of those 10 schools, Murfreesboro had 4 of them.
Okay.
So it's a challenge, but it's a very good challenge, and I'm really proud of our teachers and our support staff for how they've approached it, because we really have embraced it and have learned so much from the different ethnicities that we have in our district.
That's great. What is your total budget?
Total budget, I wrote that down in case you asked me, because I wanted to know it, because I deal more with instruction than I do money, although I've learned a lot about money. We're looking at almost $66 million.
Okay.
Almost $66 million.
And much of that is coming from the state as well as from the city,
Right.
correct?
And the city had contributed $4.8 million, and they thankfully have added an additional $500,000 this year, so that's been a real blessing. Of course, they help us with untold ways with our capital projects, and also with our technology plan that we implemented, and very thankful that we implemented it when we did, because obviously we're using it this year for testing.
Any big challenges you see coming up for the city school systems and for the city school system in particular?
I don't think so. I think obviously growth, but just to continue our focus on the whole child and to really look at the who instead of the what so much. I had a teacher, and it really, I told her, I said, that made my day. She said, she was talking to a group, in fact it happened this morning, and she said, we look at the who instead of the what. And that's important, because if we can look at individual children and see what their needs are, then we're going to be successful. The legislature is a challenge. I think that a lot of times that we need to be sure that we are communicating with our representatives and that they are communicating with us, because what can seem like a very good idea may not be a very good idea when it's implemented, when you put it on the ground. So that's going to be a challenge, because I think that we're seeing, I don't want to use the term hysteria, because that just sounds too much, but I think there are a lot of things that are being said about public education that just aren't true. And so I would ask that anyone in the public, if they have a question about education, that they call me or talk to a teacher in the district to find out, is this true, instead of believing what social media may have.
Yeah, talk to an educator.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
Let's talk about testing. I know I hear a lot of comments from folks just saying we have too many tests, too much testing going on. React to that?
Probably, but a lot of that we don't have a choice about. I think that the intention is good, and certainly we need to know where children are. The key is to be able to use testing, to use assessment, and I prefer to use the term assessment, to help us with how can we help children. So what can we learn from that assessment? I think that I would very much like to see on the state level a pre-test, so when the children come in at the beginning of the school year, that we test them then, and we test them at the end instead of at the end of last year.
Yes.
I think that will give us a truer picture of what's happening. I think we have to be careful when we assume that the tests are going to necessarily show the value of the person who is both teaching and the value of the person who's learning. So I think that we have to have more clarity about what is going to be tested and what the test is going to look like. It's very hard to hit a target if you're not sure what that target is or if it's moving. And obviously the teachers cannot see the tests, and so we trust that the samples we are given and what we are taught about what the test will look like will be true. And I'm not sure that that's always valid. So for us in Murfreesboro City, the way we approach it is, and it's probably different than some other people approach it, but I really do want to use it to help us as far as how do we reach children. So I don't want it to put a value on you if you're a teacher. Mm-hmm. If you have a low score on your test, then what I'm going to be doing is going to the principal and say, okay, tell me what happened. Now, if it's a pattern, then what I want is I want someone in there helping that teacher and modeling for that teacher. And this year we will actually be adding some academic coaches to do just that. We have waited until we were ready for that, but I think that'll make a difference. But I understand that teachers are of varying quality, and certainly I do not want a teacher who is a bad teacher in the school, because I value too much the hard work of teachers that are excellent teachers. But I think we really need to look at what testing is doing to our children and make sure that that's what we want. Really to ask if the assessment process is still focused on helping children, or if it's more on just a measurement, because measurement just tells me where I am. It doesn't help me improve.
Are there too many demands being put on education from Washington and then from the state level down to the local level? I hear criticism particularly about coming down from Washington.
I think that there's too much involvement of politics.
Okay.
And I don't mean positive politics, I mean negative politics. I think, again, we have a lot of special interest groups that have decided that they are going to make education their target. I'm concerned that we may lose public education. I want public education to be excellent, so understand me. I do not want a system that truly is not working toward excellence.
Sure.
But on the other hand, if we have public education systems that are doing a good job, if we say that the grounding of the United States and the foundation of the United States was in the public education system, then I think we owe it to ourselves to ensure that public education is strong, and to not just assume that it's not because it has been around for a while. Because I have some colleagues who are superintendents who are absolutely wonderful. I have teachers that I have the highest respect for. And I'm passionate enough about this that I really resent when mud is slung and that person who's doing the slinging was raised in public education and is a product of public education and is slinging the mud without seeing what's happening in their local schools.
What about charter schools and other alternatives that have come up in recent times?
I think that they have their place. I think that, in my opinion, what we're doing in our, and again, charter schools are public schools, but they certainly have a lot more autonomy in a lot of ways. I think that some are valid, and I think some are catchphrases. And I think that can be said about a lot of things. So I think that we need to be sure that when we are advocating for a charter school to come into a district, we need to look at that district and make sure that they are not trying to improve, and validly trying to improve with research-based strategies. So is the charter going to do anything different than what the traditional public school is going to do? If it is, then we need to talk.
That was the original idea of that initiative, I think, to be able to do some things that public schools could not do.
And I think that a lot of the criticism we're getting in public schools, we probably have brought on ourselves in many ways. A long time ago, I wrote an article and I talked about the complacency, that we had dedicated complacency, that we were working very hard in our schools, and I'm not just talking about Murfreesboro, but very hard in our schools, but we were not telling the public what we were doing. And so if we didn't start talking with the public and letting them see what we're doing, then the public would demand that we do. And I think in many ways that's exactly what's happened.
At the state level, the legislature, they're continuing to talk about vouchers. How do you think that'll affect public schools if that's put into place?
I think it's a real problem. I think it's a real problem for Murfreesboro. I think it's easy to say that Murfreesboro is not going to be affected, but I think it's foolish to say that. I'm opposed to the law that was passed for the special education vouchers. I do not think it holds the schools accountable to which those students are going. I am concerned about what it will do for those children, and I think it was a mistake. And I have voiced my opinion about that. So I think, again, we need to be sure that we know what we're talking about before we start advocating for something.
When I was in the legislature, I know one of the largest groups visiting the legislature every year were the homeschoolers. And we have, I guess, a number of homeschooling going on in this community.
Right. And we have some excellent schooling going on, and we have some that I worry about. A few years ago, the law changed. There was a law that said that by the end of September, you had to inform the school district if you were going to homeschool. After that time, the superintendent had to give permission then. And that was extremely helpful, because I can remember when I was heading up curriculum, I would have some families come in that really were wanting to homeschool because their children had had lice, and we had been on them about truancy and wanted to get them to get help for their children. And so we would deny them the ability to homeschool. I can't do that anymore. So yes, for the parents who care and who really want to homeschool, absolutely valid. I am concerned, though, that we have opened it up and swung the pendulum so far the other way that I have children, and we're seeing them now, that have gone to virtual school or homeschool, and they're coming back, and they are years behind.
I can imagine that can be a possibility.
It is. It is.
No Child Left Behind. Maybe you don't want to get into that. There's still some uncertainty about it, but there's discussion at the national level about No Child Left Behind.
We right now are waiting to see how that goes. They are close to a vote, I think. We'll see if it's turned upside down again and we don't get a vote on that. It's part of the ESEA, which is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, that really was enacted 50 years ago. So it's time to reauthorize that again, and we'll see how that goes. There's some things in there that, and I'm not sure whether we know exactly what's in there yet, because as you know, being in the legislature, a lot of times amendments can totally change things. So I think I probably hold judgment until I see how that comes down. I think that the one concern I have heard is some of the federal monies that are Title I monies, for example, that might follow the child instead of staying with a school. And I can see where if vouchers were to take place, that would damage public schools. If I have 5 children that leave a particular school in a grade level, I'm losing that money because it would follow those children, but I still have the teacher, I still have the school, I still have all of the expenses to take care of. So I would like for, if we're going to take money away from public schools, I would like to be able to say, yes, it's legitimate, yes, it's a better program, yes, we're going to see a different effect for children, because it is all about how does that affect the children.
I always felt like No Child Left Behind was greatly misunderstood by a lot of people, even in education, or not appreciated. I'm not sure. Well,
I think it's very difficult. I think that when you put a number out there that you're going to have 100% of your children proficient or advanced, first of all, you're not going to have 100% of your children, because you have some situations where children just are not going to be. And I'm not going to get into that, but we have diverse children that have diverse abilities. Yes, I want every child reaching their potential, but to say that 100% of our children, so I think that was an issue. And again, I think it has to do with that measurement. It has to do with the measurement. Can we see continual improvement, or are we going to set a mark where we really are not going to reach that?
Okay, let me ask you about pre-K.
Okay.
That's seemed like a difference of opinion among many about whether pre-K is worth the money you put into it, whether it really has a positive effect on children getting ready for school.
Here's what the research says, and here's how that looks. A lot of people hang their hat and they talk about that the effect of pre-K washes out by 3rd grade. I'm great with that. If I have at-risk children who come into school and they are years behind their peers, and by 3rd grade they are at their peer level, not advanced, but if they're right at their peer level, that's what I want. Because if I hadn't had pre-K, they would still be years behind. I am a huge advocate of pre-kindergarten, just huge advocate of pre-kindergarten. What we know is that the vocabulary of children who are from low socioeconomic homes is going to be about half of what the vocabulary will be from professional homes when they hit kindergarten. If we can give those children as a society a chance to get there. There's more and more research that's showing that particularly with our ESL students, if we can get them in earlier than kindergarten, then we're going to have a better chance. So I think people need to look at the research and understand that when we talk about it washing out by third grade, that doesn't mean that we haven't seen an effect, because indeed we have.
As far as organization, now you have a board that you
Right.
as director of schools answer to, right?
I'm their employee.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
And that's 7 people, is that correct, that are elected by the
That's
public?
right. Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, okay. For
Well, for a
4-year
four-year term, right.
Yeah, but
Right.
half and half, I
Right,
guess. Okay,
that's right.
all right. And what is your relationship with the State Board of Education?
Okay. The state board acts in many ways like our board. Our board, we have the law that comes down, and really the determination by the state board and our board. The state board, as far as my relationship with them, I don't know that I necessarily have one, except that I give them my opinion but really give the Department of Education more than anything else, and give the legislators my opinion, because the state board is a diverse board, and what I see right now is I see the legislature having more power than the state board, and I think probably part of that may be because there may be a feeling in the legislature that the state board has not done whatever they think the state board should have done. So I think things like how big signs can be on school buses. A lot of the minutia that I see the legislature getting into probably should be dealt with, just like our board deals with policy, which gets down in the minutia. Then I think probably the legislature and state board should have that same kind of relationship. So the state board is an entity. I'm not sure how much power there really is in the state board, right? At least now.
You mentioned State Department of Education, and you have a lot of relationships with that department,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I do. Vicki Kirk, who is works as one of the deputy directors, and also Kathleen Earhart, know her well. I knew Candace McQueen before she went into that department.
Good, the new commissioner.
Right, the new commissioner. So there has been a lot of turnover there. I know the head of the pre-K very well, special ed very well. I think that they are trying to build a relationship with the school districts much better than what we had.
Good.
What was happening before, John, is we just weren't getting the communication. And I'm not sure we're there yet, but when you do not know what's going to impact your school district until the day the information is released, that's a real problem.
Not good.
That's not good. And that's what we were seeing before.
Linda, thank you for joining us. Linda Arms Gilbert, the Director of Schools, Dr. Gilbert for Murfreesboro City Schools, and talking about this wonderful school system, the great job that you and all your professional relationships.
It's the teachers and the support staff and the
thank you for your
administrators.
great leadership.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
This has been Murfreesboro Storytellers, originating from Overall Creek Elementary School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.